Hi, everybody. It's Lynn Louise Wonders, and today I am so excited to have my friend and colleague Tammi Van Hollander here. Tammi was the very first one when we hit this pandemic and therapists were thrown into telehealth to start interviewing some of the greatest people in the field of play therapy on video. She has a video YouTube channel, and she's been putting out these videos almost daily for the last several weeks. And I've known Tammi for a while now, and she is somebody that just really inspires me because she always comes from her heart. And she is the queen of creativity, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of interventions and heart-based interventions, really coming from a place of what can we do to engage children and their parents, and to make the work that we do be not only technically therapeutic but also relationally therapeutic. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here today, Tammi. And I wondered if first you could kind of reflect on all of these interviews you've been doing over the last 3, 4, 5, however many weeks it's been. It's all a blur to me, but I know there's been a lot of them, and you've been interviewing a lot of people. What would you say are 2 or 3 as sort of the common takeaways after listening to all of these wise voices share their wisdom with us?
Right. Well, I'd have to say first, in terms of the takeaways and the people I've interviewed, you being one of them, are that they have been these people who have inspired me for so long, and people who are in my world who I feel so blessed to have all these amazing voices, and feeling this need to like share all my friends and colleagues with everybody else, because they've been just such an inspiration. And that's really, I just felt like I just had to share like all the heart that I have for all the people who I'm interviewing as well. That it's just it's that connection too. And I think that's been the main piece and underlying theme for everything, has not been about intervention after intervention. It's been about connection, and it's been about relationship. And I really did this because I've connected with people more than I've ever connected before, from all over the world, just reaching out with all of my colleagues. And it has been such a gift for me to be able to have them take the time to be able to do this interviews. And I'm getting emails from all over the world of gratitude, because when we all found out that we had to move into telehealth, everybody just panicked. And I think they just needed a voice, they needed a face, they needed to hear from others. And I'm just getting that response of just gratitude. And I think it wasn't so much in terms of the interviews being specific interventions. It was voices of reason, voices of calm, voices of, things are really hard. There's some real challenges to this. But we're all going to get through it together. And I think that the whole idea of the community coming together, and the love in the heart, and for the work that we do to help others, has really just been the forefront of all of this.
It's very true. I've been watching all of the videos, and again, while there's some great ideas for things we can do, it really does come down to that common denominator of the authenticity of the connection that we have with our clients. But that brings me into the topic of creativity, because you are, if I'm thinking of anybody that I would go to if I needed a quick if I felt really stuck or stumped, I would go to Tammi. I'd say, help me come up with something. And you would come up with something, because you do have this natural kind of wellspring of creativity, I think. That's a real gift that you share with all of us. And I'm curious to know if you could talk a little bit about, and maybe help some therapists who feel like they don't naturally have that gift. But I believe everybody does have that inside of them. It's just a matter of confidently being able to tap into it. What are some of your suggestions for therapists to be able to tap into creativity and to be able to let that flow in the work that they're doing?
Right. I mean, I 100% believe that my tapping into creativity is tapping into the children. And that when I look at all of the interventions and the work that I have done, it has been sparked from kids. And it has been following their lead, and they may do one thing, and then it's one idea that leads to another idea that leads to another idea. And I just, I love this work so much, and being involved in the play with the children. I mean, I started when I look at all of my interventions and when I travel and when I present, it's really so many things that will just, these kids are so creative, and I feel like I'm just channeling their spirit. Like I wish that there was something more concrete, but I really believe that there is this energetic connection.
Yeah.
One parent once called me the child whisperer, of like this ability to connect and attune to children. And if I feel like they're my gift, and I'm sharing their spirit, and I feel like it's their spirit which is their creativity, which is their intervention. So that may not be so black and white, but I really do. I feel like all of these type of interventions is just channeling them, because we know it comes from the child, and their creativity is just like mind blowing. And I that's my favorite thing about this work, is just being able to be a part of that.
So it really comes back to the authentic connection. I'm also hearing, if I could interpret a little bit, that there is a level of authentic delight that has to be present while you're present with the child, and a lot of curiosity probably in attuning and paying attention and wondering out loud, and all of that you're saying leads to these, because you're right there with them and you're feeling their energy, their child spirit. It awakens that same aspect of your own self, and so together you're co-creating some experiences. So you're not coming to the sessions necessarily with, today this is what we're going to do, but rather tuning into the child and maybe having some ideas, but really following the child. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really do. I have a poem. I don't know if you ever saw it, and I can share it with you, but it's part of like, I have no agenda, but I quiet their fears. And it's like, even if I had an agenda, if I'm following the child, it's often like thrown out the window.
Yeah.
And that it really is, it's that flow. And it's when you are, when you have the kids who are so in that play and in that mindset, and they're humming and they're just like in that world, and they're letting you enter that world, even though it may start more client centered, then it may become more directive, because it's just like you're just there. Like it's almost like you're reading them. There's a part of it that you just, for some of these kids, you just know what's going on, and you could read it, even in terms of them doing their sand trays, and they're doing something like, I may see like, oh, there may be fences and things like that, and I may not like suggest the fences, but I may have the fences, I may pull them out, and I may pull the people out, just so it's not distracting their work in terms of some of the bins I have. And they're just going to it because we're that in sync with the stories. I'm not trying to direct them in any way, but it's just, there's just this connection that happens within it. And they may say one thing, and through that I'm like, oh, how can this, and that I am not even saying in my mind, how could this be a creative intervention? Like literally they say something and I'm like, okay, let's go over to the art table and we're going to do this. Like it's just literally like finishing the sentence, and not, within the flow, within what's going on, of whatever the word is, whatever the metaphor is, and bringing it to life and maybe expanding it a little more. And I think that's maybe the piece of it.
So it sounds like your theoretical orientation is largely client-centered, child-centered, in terms of just being present and really connecting in. Although I know you do a lot of attachment-based work, which is a relationship-based approach. I wanted to ask you about in telehealth. It appears to me, and a lot of the therapists that I've been consulting with, that involving parents and looking at the nature of the relationship between children and their caregivers is more important than ever, because we're entering their home, and there's a level of, we don't have the luxury of having them come to our space, our office, and be able to just have this experience. We are through the screens going into their home, and so the parents in that context are something that it's a little different than being in person. It's very different. um from your attachment based training and experience and wisdom, what would you suggest to therapists who maybe haven't had that training, or haven't had the level of training, obviously, that you have and offer yourself, about including parents in the process of the therapy, whatever that looks like? Do you have any suggestions?
I'm so glad you brought it up because the family piece is so important. And I've been supervising different people, and there's a lot of clinicians who just don't work with families. Like they just don't want to deal with them. They just, and they'll say the parents aren't interested and it's just not their thing. And I say the opposite, that these are the kids and the parents who need the connection more than ever. They're the ones that we really need to work harder and to give them a chance,
Yeah.
because there is a mindset on some clinicians of like, I don't work with families.
Mhm.
And families don't want to. Well, give them a chance, like try. And when you're able to create this playful environment with families, you see the families light up, you see the children light up, and that it's so important. I mean, we had one child, I won't be specific, but there was a event, it was a party that didn't go so well, that had happened in the past. And so we created it via telehealth
Mm.
and redid the party. And I was also a part of the party and doing family games within the party and doing attunement games, whether we're doing Playdough. One of my favorite games, I'm not trying to do plugs, but Beth Ritchie's Family Feelings game,
Oh, yeah.
which I just got. And it's just like all the different feelings and the parents having to guess what the different feelings are. And so many things have come out of it. I have one of those games. It's choices. It's like, what would you do? um, and different scenarios that you learn so much about the child. But when you do it with the parent and the child, you learn so much within the relationship. And just from the client-centered lens of, I've really been teaching the parents a lot of that special time and some of the filial pieces. I have certain little ones who really just are a couple who are just really having difficulty with the telehealth platform. And the parent just kept saying, oh, well, I'm trying to get them there and I'm trying to work out, do things with the other children while they're in the session. And I said, no, that's the opposite. And I think I didn't make that clear enough of the importance of, I want you in the play. I want you involved in the play, and we're going to get so much farther in the play. So now we've worked it out for each parent to be able to be with a different child and for them to absolutely be a part of the play for every session. And it has been working out so beautifully. The connection, we are getting so much farther. The child is not running off. The parents learning how to follow the child's lead, and we're able to do the work together. So sometimes we just really have to make it clear that to the families that we want them there in the session. And even if we're doing that client-centered piece, like, come join us and watch and follow and learn while we're doing this work. And this is such a great platform to really be able to teach them. The more that I am doing that with families, it's just been so helpful in so much in terms of even the family dynamic, and even them being able through the telehealth platform to recreate certain scenarios. They could do it as if they're, I'm watching the movie, or I'm big on puppets, family puppet shows, and
Mhm.
Eliana Gill's family puppet show, and you're asking the puppets different questions. So there's so much wonderful stuff we could do with families. One of my favorites that I'm doing all the time, and Lynn, you were actually inspired by this. I don't know if you know this, but when I was in your training on divorce and you did the Playdough and we were following you with one of your Playdough interventions,
Yeah.
that became one of my favorite interventions of how I I do it in all my trainings with clients as well as with family members of them of following the lead. So I'm with the Play-Doh and I'm doing the circle and they're doing it and the child's changing it, and then the next family member. And my kids who are the most dysregulated, my kids on the autistic spectrum who really have difficulty, everything stops when we're all doing as a family, as well as me being included, the follow the leader with the Play-Doh. And
Oh,
It's amazing to watch the attunement, to watch the dance, to watch us all be so connected, even though I'm on the screen. But it's been one of my favorite ones, and everyone has a Play-Doh out before all of my sessions. That's part of their little toolbox before
Mhm.
we meet.
That is so good to know. And you know what? That makes me think that we probably need to do a video where we demonstrate that. And then we can link it below. And I wondered if we can also make sure that we link Beth Ritchie's game below. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful one. And the other one that you had, if that's something that we could help people get pointed to. The other thing I want to mention is your greatness sticks and Casey's greatness wings. I know you do a lot of work around using this intervention that you've created to help children to cultivate a healthy, wonderful sense of self-esteem. Have you found ways to use the greatness sticks over telehealth?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely the same way. Whether the kids with the greatness words that I have, we use them so much, and it was really inspired through my Nurtured Heart approach training, where actually myself and Lila Tyler were just invited to be a part of the Global Virtual Nurtured Heart Summit that we're going to be doing a 2-hour webinar on creative greatness activities and play therapy and linking it with Nurtured Heart. But it's all being able to create these beautiful recognitions. And how are we able to create these recognitions now more than ever, when everybody's so much in need of getting that energy and giving $100 bills to the things that are going right, because things are hard. So whether, I don't have any of them here, they're making the greatness sticks, and or I'll have the greatness sticks, and then I will literally be pulling out the greatness sticks of the ones that I have, and we will be going through it, and I'll be giving them the recognitions, or they'll have the list, and the parents will also be then giving the recognitions to the child, as well as the child giving the recognitions to the parent. Part of the Nurtured Heart approach is this idea that saying I love you and I'm proud of you is just like emotional junk food. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And when we're able to truly see the child and give these active recognitions, of the ways that they show that they're loving, the ways that they show their kindness. They could have, slammed the door, they could have hit their brother or sister, they could have left the room, but they didn't. It shows that you have flexibility, it shows that you have self-control. So we need to be in the moment of all the things, the times that kids are doing things right. In the Nurtured Heart approach, there's a big slide with a purple dot, and it's all white, and it's like, what do you see? And we see the pink dot, and the dot is really the behavior of the things that are wrong. Like, we energize those temper tantrums, and we energize those power struggles, and if we really look at it, there are so many more things that are going right that are going wrong. And if we're energizing that, then it's making all the difference of energizing all their greatness and all the things that are going right, than being stuck on that dot and just seeing that dot. And it's a whole different, it's looking at things through a different lens and through a different perspective.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to make sure that I have links to I know you have a blog article about how people can use the greatness sticks and where
Hmm.
they can order them if they want to order the ones that you have. I know that there's another version of making them themselves if they want to. You've shown that. There's so many different ways they could do this. And then also Casey's Greatness Wings is a great book for their bibliotherapy collection that would go along with
Yeah.
this. So I'll make sure that I put all those links below, because I know people are going to see this video and say, what was that she said? Where was that? So I'll make sure that I provide all of that.
And also, I think, I don't remember what day it was, but I have done a video. I've done about 35 videos so far, maybe 36.
Yeah.
But one of them is, it's like teleplay therapy, maybe day 4, but it's tuning into attunement. And the first one I do is the Play-Doh activity.
Oh, you do have it. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So it is on there, and I will be doing one on Casey's Greatness Wings, because it's a kinesthetic storytelling. So how are we teaching parents to do the backstories and connect with them through that piece, and as well as just providing some supervision as well. You've really inspired me in terms of that piece, and providing some RPTS supervision, and just being able to just help guide people in general, especially through this pandemic. So, and I
Absolutely.
just want to also do a shout out, Lynn, to you. I mean, the amount I go through your emails, and I'm plugging them in, and I have them all in a file literally on my computer. So when I go into, I put it a part of a PowerPoint that also was another great one that from Beth Ritchie of one of, she has a whole PowerPoint that I connect the different videos in the PowerPoint. So I share my screen and I share the videos and I share the resources within the telehealth session. So I have it all there, which is great. And so many of those resources have been through, just the amount of resources you have provided and the amount of work and energy that you have put into just helping us through this crazy time. It's just been
Oh,
wonderful how the community has bonded together.
thank you. I think a lot of us feel like we just want to do as much as we can and try to show up for people, and especially those of us who are known on social media. I think it is really important for us to show up, and as you have done, as I've tried to do, as others have done. So I feel the same way. I'm really grateful that we have this community. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you have a great rest of your week and keep bringing those great videos to us as long as you have the energy to do so. And I'll keep sharing them with everybody. Thank you,
Okay,
Tammy.
Lynn, thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.